Hello and welcome back. Sean here, Mountains Garage, in the somewhat moderately temperate state of Maine. The humidity is kind of blown out. It's a little sticky, but the temperature's only in the 70s, so it's bearable. Slightly overcast right now, if you care. If the sun was out, you could see it on the lathe behind me. People often ask what's going on my lathe. It's just the sunshine coming in the window in the afternoon. I get a lot of viewer requests. I think that's awesome. A lot of them concern mostly transmission stuff, Turbo 400, and I've got a few on bushing, removal, and installation. So, up until yesterday, I have always used my own homemade tools. And some of the universal kits. A lot of these work really well. They're getting pretty well beat up after, well, I bought that in high school, so. And I've made a lot of bushing drivers out of old stuff. My good buddy Ken is a Toyota mechanic, and he had an old box of like wooden box full of old 70s Toyota tools. Back when they probably first started selling vehicles over here, who knows? But they were cool round things with handles and stuff, and over the years, I moved them from my parents' garage, which was my first shop, to here. I've only ever had 2 addresses, and I continue. I keep them under the press, but my homemade stuff combined with some universal stuff up until yesterday, I never questioned doing anything else. But if you remember, at least a year ago, maybe more, I mentioned and turned everybody on to the same deal. If you're interested, on eBay, listed, and they may still be, what is listed as a Kentmore Turbo 400 complete bushing removal and installation tool set, as called out in the ATSG 3L80 Turbo 400 manual by the J tool number. Now, the Turbo 400 group obviously is J-21465. All these start with that part number, and then there's a dash 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, whatever. Again, they're all called out here. We're going to go over them one by one, what they do, up to and including the staking pliers. I have often thought it would be nice to have the original tools because, for instance, in the pump stator, they have to go in a certain depth, and I believe that the factory tools, judging by what I saw in the book, would do that, and they do. My homemade tool, I have it marked so I can do the same thing, but having the correct tool certainly never hurts. When I took it out of the box, when I got it, I looked at it briefly, unpackaged it, put it in this nice little military surplus container, put it on the shelf, and never touched it. My initial impressions were, hey, it's got a driving handle. That's wrong. So starting in the back of the transmission, let's take them one by one. And I started that process last night when I realized right off the bat that none of these, this is not the driving handle. They all take the same handle, which is J8092, that I don't have. It doesn't come with it. That's up to you to source. Before I started this video, tried contacting Kent Moore. I knew they'd been bought out, I believe, by SPX. And that's as far as I got in my 5 minutes worth of research, because I had a few questions about what must be superseded part numbers. These 3 here, these ones here I nailed. I know exactly what they do. These I know what they do. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Back to the handle, the J-8092. I looked it up. It's about $40 if you can find one, 40 to 90, depending on where you're looking. It's listed as being 9 inches long, 3/4 10 thread. Well, I just made one because that's why I got, piles of raw material. I used a truck wheel stud because I don't have a 3/4 10 coarse tap. But doing race car stuff, I have 3/4 fine left and right hand, but this is obviously right hand, so I just bored this. This is mild steel, so I can hit it with a regular hammer if I need to, but I'll try to remember to use my orange dead blow there. So the closest I could get, I don't have a lot of big drills, probably like you, so I had 11/16 drill. I drilled it to 11/16, tapped it 3/4 fine. My threads came out perfect. The truck wheel stud, I used to be a heavy truck mechanic, I guess I mentioned that, so I got some old wheel studs. Cleaned it up and put it in there. I thought about counterboring this to put this, blank space down inside. In the end, I thought it might be handy to have that extra reach if you had to, get inside something. I haven't used them yet, so just to be sure I wasn't going to create more problems, and plus it was easier just to make a spacer, and I can use it like this or like that. So, starting with, as called out in the book, the J21465-17. This does the tail housing, remove and replace on the bushing, and it does the front pump. Now people ask how I do it. Well, you're going to put it in here. I drive it down through, and I install this way as well. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. I install it flush with that aluminum shelf. They make extra wide bushings and they make narrow bushings. I like the extra wide, and the excess just hangs inside the tail housing. I don't have a pump cover right here, but when I drive out the bushing, I drive it from the seal side because the pump sits nice on the bench like that, and I just drive it down into the cavity where the gears would be. To install it, I come from the inside and I install it flush. So flush with the back of the tail housing, flush with inside the pump. This driver will do both. The next one, which I have on this spacer, this is not a driver handle because it has male, female threads, 3/4 10. If you hit on this end, you're just going to mess it up. This is made so this next bushing, driver, 20-on-465 I gotta look, 8, I guess. Yep, 8. This is an extension. You put your regular handle on. So now, in the past, you've seen me, like the no-walk case bushings. I went and get my cam bearing tool. Now I can go down through the pump opening and I can reinstall the bushing. So in this case, you're going to drive it out from the back in and install it from the inside out. I think. Yeah, that makes sense. So I'm just going to leave that attached there because that is the only one that bushing driver does. Almost there. The next one in line is made to do the bushing in the output shaft. Now, there's also removers for these blind hole bushings, but the part number is different, and that's why I wanted to call Kent Moore. This wants to thread in, even though I'm 3/4 of the way down. There's enough thread that I believe it's going to bite in and allow me to retrofit this to my slide hammer, which I haven't done yet. I also learned that by reading the book. There's a J-tool adapter to a Kent Moore style slide hammer. I have 3 slide hammers. I have a small one made for popping seals out. It has a screw on the end of it. It's like 5/16. That's not going to work. I have a 3/8 pump popper. That's probably too small to do something like this. And I have an Oh My God snap-on that's 4 feet long. So I need to make one, and I'm going to. That's next on the list. For these two, I might as well cover this one. This is for your stator support bushings front and back removal, and for your sun tube. So I can't wait to try this. Once again, this is a different part number than is listed right here. But I have to believe it's a superseded number because it still starts with the 20-on-465. Same deal, it drops, over halfway in before it starts to bite. These two here, sorry to disappoint you, I'm going to have to make the tool and cover that in another video. But in a perfect world, this is going to remove them, which is going to be a whole lot easier. All the other bushings drive in and out. Those have to come out the hard way because there's no way to get to the back side. And while I'm covering useless things that I don't know what they do, 21465-12, I don't know yet. It's not listed anywhere. Haven't found a use for it. I don't know. Doesn't seem to fit over anything. So if you have discovered this, I apologize for my lack of research. Well, I did some research, as much as I could do on, the old Google machine on my phone before I started filming. I don't know what this does yet. Can't wait to find out, or it may be a fancy paperweight. Next up, 21465-6 does your center support bushing. In and out. That is pretty slick. You need to use either the extension or the handle, depending on how high it up is in the press, but this should drop right down through the center support, and of course you got to line up the rectangle. That's all you got to worry about, putting it back in. But this is nicer than the tool I made because my tool isn't that long. This actually comes all the way out the end of the bushing, and I'm going to assume you can get it back out afterwards. So, excited to try that. Next up, 21465-5 installs the Sun Gear tube shaft bushing. There's one on each end. Same bushing that's in the stator on the pump. However, I'm hoping the remover removes it, and this tool just allows you to push it in flush with the end of the Sun Gear shaft. I could get you one if I had one. Hold on. Sorry about that, I was unprepared, but Sun Gear shaft, there's a bushing on either end. This tool will allow you to go in flush. The next two, once again, the same remover, should remove these out of the pump stator, front and back. Remember, it's up to you whether you put the front one back in, depending on what you have for a converter. But they go in specific depths, front and back. So they give you both of these, the 21465-2 and 3. They're spaced, so when you push the bushing in, after you've removed it, like I said, hopefully with that, it goes to the right depth. That, to me, is worth the price of the whole thing. Again, my tool that I made is marked for depth. I kind of got to eyeball it. This one, you can just whack on it to your heart's content, and it's going to go in the right depth. And finally, the staking pliers. If you look at your factory case bushing, it is staked horizontally. If you're looking at the back of the transmission, they go in, they probably have a hydraulic rig in the middle of the bushing, inside the recess where the oil would flow. They squeeze that out into the case with one of these. That's what it's for. I've never done that. One, I didn't have the tool. Two, I use cylindrical parts bonding Loctite. But now that I have the staking tool, I'll probably give it a shot. Suspiciously absent in the service manual is mention of the reaction carrier bushing. It does come in a bushing kit. This is a full bushing kit. It comes in there, but there's no mention of removing or replacing. I got excited that maybe that's what that was for, but I don't believe so. I can tell you that I showed you this, one of my homemade tools. I drive most of my seals, the pump seal, tail housing seal, with that side, but this side is my installer. So I guess I'll continue to have to use some homemade ones because this kit is not complete. Odd that there's no mention of it here. And I looked. It's like it doesn't even exist. Must be an oversight. Or they expect you to replace the whole part. Who knows? But I don't think that's the case. It's just very strange that it's not covered in the book. In fact, in the exploded view, like for instance, the output shaft, they show the bushing separate. The reaction carrier, they just call it as one part number. You can see the bushing inside it, but That's bizarre. I've learned more in the last 24 hours. This transmission is always teaching me things, but very interesting. But I hope you get something out of this. I guess I'm just going to end it now, and I'll continue to search for things that I don't know. And it's, hey, if you stop learning or think you don't know it, then wait a minute, let's get that right. Think you know it all, you're never going to learn anything. So I probably got as much out of this video as hopefully you did. So catch you in a couple days. Take it easy.